Hi, I'm Samantha from TalentClick, and today's video will be an overview of how to interpret and use benchmarks to assist in your hiring decisions. But first, let's review what benchmarks are and why they are so useful. Benchmarks reflect target ranges of traits that predict success in a specific role. Taken together, these can be viewed as an ideal profile. And this profile can serve as a standard point of reference against which candidates can be compared, which predicts the likelihood of fit to the role. This standard reference, as well as the systematic way in which benchmarks are produced, reduce the reliance on human judgment and gut feelings, as well as working memory and recall. This significantly reduces the risk of bias as well as human error when comparing candidates, which helps produce a more reliable indicator of fit and job success. Benchmarks also provide a fast and efficient guide that save a ton of time and effort during the hiring process. Ultimately, they allow you to analyze reports faster, prioritize candidates for interviewing, as well as focus the actual interview time where it matters most. Now, before jumping into how to interpret benchmark reports, it can be helpful to understand where those benchmarks come from. And there are a few different methods that we can use. The first involves assessing current employees and correlating these results with employee metrics to see which traits have the greatest direct impact on performance. The second involves nominating top performers to see what traits they have in common. Another option here is to assess and compare both your high and low performers. This way you can see the key differentiating traits of top performers in your organization. The third option involves surveying job experts to uncover the key competencies of the day-to-day role and then mapping these onto corresponding traits. And the fourth option is to select the industry standards that are most relevant to your role, using those as a starting point. These are available in our benchmark library, which you can access through our self-serve portal. Regardless of which method you choose, you will end up with a benchmark profile that looks something like this. The orange lines represent the ideal range of scores. In this example, they are for a customer service rep. As a rule of thumb, the more narrow the benchmark range, the more critical the trait is to success. So here we can see that being highly empathetic is likely to be critical to the role, as it is quite narrow as well as far right. Whereas being dominant versus non-dominant may be less critical since it is a wider range and more in the middle. Now, once you have your benchmark profile and you know what you're looking for, the next step is to have your candidates complete the assessment. The reports will be automatically generated and available to you with the benchmarks pre-programmed. The next step is then analyzing these reports. Let's take a look at an example. This is a sample work style and performance profile report for a candidate named Kelly, with the same benchmarks for a customer service rep that we saw earlier. Right at the top of the page, you will see a fit score. The fit score allows you to instantly gauge the likelihood that this candidate is a good fit for the position. If the candidate is well within range on every dimension, then the score will be 100. And as the candidate's results diverge from the ideal profile, this score will decrease. As you can see, these fit scores are also associated with colors. Green reflects a good fit, yellow reflects a possible fit, and red reflects a poor fit. In this example, the candidate has a fit score of 75. This means that they are within the ideal range in most areas, but outside the ideal range in a couple of key areas that will require further probing. Next, you will see that each dimension includes the candidate's scores, which are indicated by the orange markers and superimposed on top of the benchmark ranges. This allows you to see at a glance both the applicant's strengths and areas of concern. In this example, we see that Kelly is within the ideal range on all dimensions except for direct versus empathetic, as well as non-dominant versus dominant. Her score on direct versus empathetic is particularly notable, as again the benchmark is quite narrow and far right. However, the candidate has scored in the mid-left. So what this is telling us is that as a customer service rep, it is critical to be sensitive to the needs of others and tactful in your communication with them. However, Kelly prefers to communicate in a more straightforward and direct manner. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that she is unable to communicate in a sensitive and tactful way, but rather that it requires more awareness and energy to do so, since it is not her natural tendency. It is also important to remember here that there are no right or wrong personality profiles, but rather a matter of fit to the position. For example, these results are for the same candidate, Kelly, but this report includes the benchmark profiles for 3 additional sales roles. As we can see, She has a fit score of 95 for an outbound sales position. So while she may be a moderate fit for a customer service rep, she seems to be a strong fit for outbound sales. So as you can see, it can be useful to use a report with multiple benchmark profiles, as you can tell at a glance which roles the candidate is best suited for. Now that we've had some useful insights from these reports, what can we do with this information when hiring? One way that you can use these insights in hiring is with the rank ordering or prioritizing candidates to determine which candidates you want to spend time interviewing first. Now, we don't recommend that you use fit scores as a sole means for screening or ruling anyone out. However, looking at these results during this phase can allow you to consider candidates that you may have otherwise overlooked. It also may allow you to flag those candidates who may have otherwise presented really well so that you know to proceed with caution. Another key way to use this insight is in the actual interview. We recommend assessing candidates before the interview so that you can use the results to tailor the questions. This ensures that you're delving into any areas of concern that were highlighted by the report. So back to our example. Since Kelly is outside the ideal benchmark range for direct versus empathetic and non-dominant versus dominant, these are the two areas that we recommend probing further during the interview. The point here is to assess her degree of self-awareness and, most importantly, her ability to manage those tendencies when they may be impeding her success. Our reports provide suggested interview questions for this very reason, which are located at the bottom of each detailed results page. For example, to probe further into Kelly's tendency to be direct, we can ask, tell me about a time when you needed to make someone feel comfortable and at ease. How did you approach the situation? Or, describe a time when someone made an especially unreasonable request to you. How did you handle the situation? So now that we have used these insights regarding fit to make better hiring decisions, the ultimate aim is to drive positive workplace outcomes. However, collecting data on these outcomes can also in turn provide feedback to further refine those benchmarks. This is especially recommended when starting with a job analysis survey or industry standards. In this way, benchmarking can be seen as a feedback loop, where those ideal ranges become even more precise and predictive so that they can continue to drive success. So I hope this video provided some insight into how you can use benchmarks to save time and help make better hiring decisions. If you have any further questions, please check out the resources on our website, which can be found at www.talentclick.com. Thank you.